Welcome to the Mill Brook Railroad. Today, I want to talk a little bit about track inspections on a miniature railroad, whether it's at your home, a club track, or whatever. So, here at the Mill Brook Railroad, we do fairly regular track inspections. Not necessarily just before a train goes through, but sometimes before we run a train, we will do a track inspection. But some of the things I check for are things like, where are the weeds growing? And what I'm doing right now, just pulling these weeds. This is just a little, I guess it's better than spot spraying, I think, in a way, because you get the roots out of the ballast and everything. Just clean up the area. Sometimes the weed sprayer just can't reach a certain track, and you've got to do something else, either backpack sprayer or something else. But anyway, this is one of the things you catch in an inspection. Look at that. That's a lot nicer than it was. We're going to make the next spot nicer too. Other things I look for are tie condition. How bad are the ties on a given track? On the main line, I'm a lot more picky than I am, like, say, in a yard track or an engine house lead track. I let things go a lot further on an engine house lead track than I do on a main line. Another thing I check are joint bars. See if they're tight. Well, see if they have any screws missing. That's always a big thing. Make sure you have all the screws in the joint bar. If they're not there, you've got a problem. Or if you have a joint bar falling apart, falling off of the rails, yeah, it's kind of a problem. You need to take care of that as soon as you can. But an asterisk on all of this stuff, it matters less on straight or tangent track than it does in a curve. Because tangent track, it's straight. Train is going to keep going straight, no matter what the condition of the track. On a curve, on the other hand, train is going to work its way out of the curve. It's going to want to try to go straight. That's physics. Yeah, pulled that weed, and there's not much left of that tie there. Guess I got to change that. This is the engine house lead. Just little things sometimes you find when you're on your hands and knees working on the track. Hello, Batman. Just pick up the little weeds and take a look at the condition of the track. Missing screws, loose legs, bad ties. Somebody left some trash there. Whatever you're comfortable with, you know. You have to decide for each track what level of maintenance you want to maintain on it. Like the engine house track, for instance, doesn't need as much maintenance. You're going slow over it anyway, so it's okay if it starts to sort of fall apart. You get to a certain point, you got to do something about it, but it doesn't need the attention that the main line does. Because the main line, you're expected to go faster anyway. Then you got to decide what kind of speed you want to do. You want to be able to maintain on your railroad as a whole. Some railroads can go slower than others. Some railroads are built to go slower than others. So take your curves into consideration, take your grades into consideration. What kind of railroad you have depends a lot on your topography. Sometimes it needs to be a slow railroad anyway. And maintaining a railroad that you can't go faster than 2 miles an hour on to let's say a 10 mile an hour speed. I'm talking miniature here, not full size. And it just doesn't make sense to have a fast speed limit or a high level of maintenance on a track that you're not going to be going that fast on anyway. Your time is worth something, and wouldn't you rather be doing something else than working on track? Unless you do want to work on track, and well, that's, you know, that's up to you. But for me, I take it, I give it kind of a short line mentality about all this anyway. This little railroad has to earn its keep by bringing in heating fuel all winter long. So we do have some standards. They're not very high. And we don't run a whole lot in the summertime. But in the wintertime, we're running sometimes 3 times a week and doing some heavy loads. So there is a standard there that we have to keep the track to. And it requires a lot of work with the size rail we have. If we had larger rail, it would require a lot less work. Got a lot of weeds in there. Well, that's probably good for now. Maybe. At least there, anyway. Oh, there's one growing there. Right next to the new ties. Didn't get the root. Anyway. As you can see, this rail is all beat up. There's no joint bars here. There's no joint bars here. This is the engine house lead track. We don't really run much beyond this point anyway. We do go up to the ballast pile, which is about a few hundred feet that way. But it's more like a spur track right now. So most of the operations are between this siding right here and the siding on the other end of the railroad. So that's the focus of maintenance, is between this siding and the one at the other end. And you know, that's one of the big differences too between the Mill Brook Railroad and maybe a track that runs in a circle. You know, we don't run in a circle. We go from one point to another. It's always been point to point, and really it always will be. Yeah, this is a spur here, by the way. It's in better condition than most of the main line, but it's also just a few months old. But also, I still need to weed it. So today we're just kind of weeding and at least getting the worst of the weeds, and doing inspection, taking a look at things the way they are on the railroad. What do I need to tend to first? Just kind of prune this stuff back. There, pull it up by the roots too. There we go. I haven't run anything up here in a while, and the track is looking like it needs some attention. It looks worse in person than it does on video. So, yeah, I've got to come up through here and give this track some TLC. Good amount of leveling will fix this whole issue, and a couple of joint bars here and there. Well, there's a ballast pile right there. That'll be getting a lot of use, and it will be getting smaller and smaller as winter approaches. Nice thing about ballast is you can do it in just about any weather. And we definitely do it in just about every weather, except for snow. If there's snow on the ground, we don't ballast anymore, and this becomes just a storage track. Well, since we're here at the end of the track, I got some tools. Might as well fix a joint bar or two. Now this is used rail, and the holes aren't in the right places for these joint bars, so I have to drill out new holes and turn the holes into slots to make things work a little bit better with this hardware that I've got. And spread out the number 440 screws and nuts. Distribute 4 of each and put them all in the joint. There we go. Now the condition of this joint was no surprise. I knew it was that bad. And I had planned to come over here at some point and do just what I did. And there we are. It's done. This joint is kind of falling apart. Hardware is falling out of it. It needs help. I mean, that just came out not even finger tight. Let's fix it. Put some new hardware in it. This is 5/8 inch rail. That is 5/8 of an inch from the top of the head to the bottom of the foot. I forget what the distance is from one side of the foot to the other, but it's not 5/8 of an inch. It's smaller than that. This is number 4 hardware with 40 pitch. Small stuff, but it's small rail, and it does the job. We're switching over to these lock nuts here. Nylon lock nuts. There's a lot of non-nylon lock nuts. There's a lot of non-lock nuts out on the railroad, so we have a lot to replace. I'm only going to replace them as they go bad, or as they fall out. This might be the case. So, jam that in there. That in there like that. Alright, I think I can tighten those down, but let me get this one in here. I'm gonna stagger these just for the sake of staggering them. What I mean by that is I'll put the head of the screw this way. Head of the screw inside the gauge over here, head of the screw outside the gauge over here. I think I need to loosen that up a little bit because I'm not really lining up real well right now. There we go. There we go. That tightens that one up. And this one's a flathead, so I'll get a flathead screwdriver for that one. I went away from flathead screws, or slotted screws. I went away from slotted screws a long time ago, but this track was put in a long time ago, so it has them. There we go. pop that out. I'll use that somewhere else later. Some indoor project or whatever. Alright, that screws out. That screws in. I don't know why I didn't just take one of those, but oh well. Put that one back in the container. Kind of line the rails up there. And I'll jack up the track after. Well, I'll pack the ballast in. Piece of tie came out in my hand here. That could be a problem. I'll have to replace this tie at some point. But anyway, that joins together. Let's move on to the next one. Now we're over by the shop, and I've got to put another screw in right here. So since I've got all the tools and the parts out, might as well do that right now, right? Tried lifting the track and it wouldn't. I guess it's packed in pretty good then. Rails don't come pre-drilled, by the way. You have to drill them yourself. These rails were already used somewhere else, and they used a different size fish plate. Something they had made at their own railroad. These fish plates, joint bars, whatever you want to call them, have slots instead of just holes, so it allows the joint to move a little bit more freely with the weather. Even with that, you still have to tighten them down. So I have to open up this hole, a new hole over here, and a new hole over here, I think. Maybe just open up these two holes a little more. Open up this one a little more. Put a new hole here. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Alright, I can see sunlight through all four of those holes. That means I've got them in the right spots. Just sort of get that thread started there in that nut. Again, these are nylon lock nuts. Line those up so they fit, so they have a little bit of play to them. Maybe I should have opened that a little more. Oh no, I just need to adjust that. There we go. And now it's time to get the nuts in place and to finish this thing up. Well, thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, hit that thumbs up button, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you think we earned it. Join us over on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. Patreon.com/Mill Brook Railroad. There, now I'll tighten up the last screw, and we're done. Alright, so those joints are together. Don't forget to always put your tools away when you're done with the job. Yeah, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.